Well, I've finally hit 300 subscribers on YouTube, and I never thought I'd get that many, so I want to thank you all so much. I hope, moving forward, the content that I produce on this channel will be worthy of your subscription. And for my last milestone video, from when I hit 200 subscribers, I did the first half of a Star Wars questionnaire that I found on the internet. I had also promised that when I hit 300 subscribers, that I would do the second half. So let's get right to it. And if you'd like to participate in this questionnaire as well, I would love to see your answers in the comment section, or even in your own video. Number 16. Who is your favorite couple? Now this will involve some spoilers for the Fate of the Jedi book series, and it might not be as common of an answer like Han and Leia, Luke and Mara, or Anakin and Padme. I like all those too, but my favorite couple in Star Wars is Ben Skywalker and Vestara Kai. And again, it's kind of a strange answer, because their relationship consisted of romance, mistrust, numerous betrayals, and worst of all, trying to score when you're on a road trip with your dad. I think I like it because of all the drama surrounding it. Similar to Romeo and Juliet, it's two people from opposing sides. It's a little warped, and probably not very healthy, but these two care for each other, even with everything going on in the galaxy. It makes for a very interesting dynamic, and hopefully when Legends gets continued, they'll be able to continue their relationship, despite all the speed bumps along the way. Do they ultimately end up together? That is also something we do not know, but getting that answer is another reason that Legend should absolutely be continued. Number 17. What is your least favorite movie? That is a very easy answer. Of all the Star Wars movies that I'm willing to acknowledge, the 2008 Clone Wars movie is the worst. Basically, it was a very underwhelming pilot to the TV show, and marked the beginning of an era of poor writing, bad humor, ugly CGI, massive contradictions to the pre-established lore, and Dave Filoni given a blank check to do whatever he wanted to the franchise. The Clone Wars is actually 4 episodes of the TV show glued together and disguised as a movie. It's about Anakin and Ahsoka trying to rescue Jabba's son. Yay. And of course, we're introduced to everyone's favorite Padawan, Ahsoka. Who wouldn't be so bad if Lucasfilm didn't treat her like the most important character in Star Wars? We're stuck with her, Sky Guy. If you somehow haven't seen this movie, just read the novelization by Karen Traviss. She did the best she could with such a garbage script. Number 18. What is your favorite lightsaber duel? I think the big advantage that movies and TV shows have over books and comics is how amazing lightsaber fights look. My favorite lightsaber fight is the final duel on Mustafar between Obi-Wan and Anakin. After 6 movies of lightsaber dueling, I think they perfected it with the best looking fight, awesome music, and a hellish looking planet for the setting. Arguably, it's the most emotional duel in the franchise, between 2 very skilled characters that we care about very much. It's very tragic, and though it's a very awesome duel, we almost don't want to see them fight, but we know that they have to, because that's just how Star Wars came to be the way we knew it. The fight itself is very fast-paced. Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor worked on the choreography for months, and it shows. I also like how they keep moving from room to room in classic Star Wars fashion, just to spice up the fight. They even keep fighting while having to contend with all of Mustafar's environmental hazards, just because they're so determined to win. It's a fantastic fight. I'm gonna go look it up on YouTube right now. Number 19. What is your favorite faction? With so many different factions in Star Wars, I kinda had to think about this one. But I think I'm gonna have to go with the Galactic Empire. A story is only as good as its villain, and the Empire is arguably the most iconic faction in the whole series. If the first thing people think about when it comes to Star Wars isn't Jedi fighting Sith, it's probably about the Empire. They're the bad guys that you love to hate, or the ones you want to cosplay as. They can be cartoonishly evil, but I think that's what people love about them, and it makes you appreciate the stories that take place from people within the Empire. Even after the Emperor died, the Imperial warlords fighting to take over really kept the Star Wars going, so to speak. People say the EU had too many super weapons? This is the Empire we're talking about. Palpatine had already built 2 Death Stars. Ruling with weapons of mass destruction is kinda their whole thing. And with as bad as the Empire is, we also enjoy seeing them being beaten by the good guys in the end. It's a classic archetype, but it's what makes the Empire work. Number 20. Who is a character you dislike? There's a very certain type of character I dislike in Star Wars. One that we've seen a few times. A hypocritical pacifist character that values nonviolence so much that they're fine with people dying as long as you don't fight back whatever you do. The stupid lemur from Clone Wars was bad. Akana from the Black Fleet Crisis books was even worse because she manipulated Luke's feelings and lied to him about his mother the whole time, while constantly lecturing him. But Duchess Satine is by far my least favorite character in Star Wars. She's a naggy pacifist that preaches nonviolence like the other two, but she's fine with people like the Jedi using violence to protect her stupid blonde-haired, blue-eyed ethno-state. She dresses like an asshole with pasta coming out of her face. Her entire existence, her planet, and her people are a massive contradiction to how Mandalorians have been shown in the lore. And the only reason that the writers have the gall to think we should care about her is because she got to third base with Obi-Wan Kenobi when they were younger. I'm glad Darth Maul killed her, and her Technodome city got burned down. We should have gotten Imperial Commando 2 instead of her. Number 21. What is your favorite friendship? There are so many good picks for this choice, but I settled on the friendship between Zane Carrick and Marn Hieroglyph. The Knights of the Old Republic comics are some of the best stories in the whole Star Wars franchise because John Jackson Miller is so good at writing characters. Particularly with Zane and Griff, they start out as rivals. Griff is a con man who successfully avoided being arrested by the klutzy Padawan Zane Carrick. But when Zane gets framed for a crime he didn't commit, they are at first forced to work together, but they develop into friends as the series goes on. They got a great dynamic with Griff, who considers himself a criminal mastermind, always looking for business opportunities, and Zane, who is a washed-out Padawan. I don't think it's incorrect to say that their partnership is really what makes the KOTOR comics work. They are really funny together, but you can tell they also care for one another. There is so much humorous banter between them that I can't do it all justice here. If you haven't read these comics yet, I strongly urge you to do so. Number 22. What is your favorite era? You're all going to be upset with me, but my answer is all of them. I couldn't pick just one, because each era is so good. The Old Republic is a big fan-favorite era that has so much great content, and tells what happened thousands of years before the movies, and it does a very good job at it. The prequel era is very nostalgic to me. Of course, the Clone Wars cartoon and Republic comics are some of the greatest content in the franchise. The Rebellion era is the heart and soul of Star Wars. It's what made Star Wars a worldwide sensation to begin with. The New Republic era and the early EU of the 90s is what reinvigorated the franchise and made Star Wars bigger than just the movies. The New Jedi Order is one of the most epic pieces of fiction, period, and introduced a threat that wasn't just the Sith or Empire again. And the Legacy era, in more ways than one, represents the future of the franchise, and what can still be added to it if Legends is allowed to continue. For all different reasons, I love all eras of Star Wars. Sorry for taking the easy way out. Number 23. What is your favorite creature? For a galaxy-spanning franchise, I can imagine that lots of people have lots of different answers to this question. The variety of creatures, both big and small, is one of the many reasons that Star Wars feels so real in the first place. But I like the more monstrous and weird fauna that makes Star Wars feel more alien. One that stands out is the Sarlacc, a menacing plant monster that's burrowed underground, and you can only really see its mouth, beak, and tentacles. Also, the horrifying fact that it takes 1,000 years to digest someone. It's interesting, but I would never want to encounter one. Another creature I like is the Yamask, and while pretty much all the Yuuzhan Vong's biotechnology could be considered alien, even in regards to Star Wars, Yamasks are pretty terrifying. They are giant telepathic brains who were created specifically to coordinate Yuuzhan Vong fleets, meaning this creepy brain creature is never truly defenseless if there are Yuuzhan Vong ships nearby that it can signal to. Pretty horrifying. Number 24. Who is an underrated character? This is also a question that could have many different answers, depending on who you ask, and rightfully so. There are so many characters in Star Wars that one could consider underrated. I personally pick Sith Lord Darth Desalis, who existed thousands of years before the movies, in a period of Star Wars that has never been truly fleshed out. Darth Desalis was a former Jedi Master who was kicked out of the Order for falling to the dark side. He turned on them with an army he created and killed 2,000 Jedi. When the Jedi lured him into a trap, it apparently took the entire council to kill him. He's only really known because the Jedi used a dueling program of Desalis to help train Jedi. And when Starkiller entered the Jedi Temple many years later, he was attacked by the Desalis program and had to defeat it. I would love to get more stories that delve into Darth Desolus as a character, both as a Jedi and as a Sith. Can he be considered to be one of the Lost 20? I'm guessing he was way more powerful than the Jedi Temple program, considering his body count, but considering we never see the true Desolus, or know too much about his character, fans don't really talk about him much. And that's why I think he's so underrated. Number 25. What is your favorite species? Easily the Rakata. Anytime I hear them, or their technology mentioned in a story, I immediately perk up, because if it has to do with them, I know it's going to be interesting. The history of the Infinite Empire is so cool. They are responsible for shaping much of the Star Wars galaxy as we know it. Not in a good way. These guys were monsters that conquered the galaxy for 10,000 years. Having their culture explored in the Dawn of the Jedi was one of my favorite parts of the comics. They are cannibalistic, literally, and they imbue technology with the dark side of the Force, which led to the creation of the Starforge, the Mother Machine, Mind Prisons, the Mind Spear, and the Force Saber. I wish the Dawn of the Jedi comics weren't cut short by the Disney buyout. I have a feeling that we would have had even more of their culture explored. Number 26. What is your favorite Star Wars photo? I don't really understand the question, so I'm just going to say this one. Number 27. What is your dream Star Wars movie? Oh, that's easy. I want to see a true Episode 7 that follows the lore of the expanded universe under the George Lucas era of Star Wars. I would have it set maybe a few years after the Crucible novel. I would have it include Luke, Han, Leia, Lando, Jaina, and Ben, as well as other EU characters that would be around that time. I'm not quite sure who the villain would be, but I'd probably have the one Sith or Abelonth make an appearance at some point. I also don't really have a firm idea of what the story should be about either. George mentioned he wanted to get metaphysical with his sequel trilogy, and I think it could work. Maybe something to do with that Force planet from Season 6 of the Clone Wars, aka the birthplace of midichlorians. Let's learn about the origin of the Force itself. Why not? Let's get crazy. Number 28. What is your favorite scene? This also could be considered cheating, but I'd say any scene with Palpatine in it. Being the Star Wars version of the devil, basically, he's incredibly entertaining to watch. He just enjoys how evil he is, and he's probably one of the most quotable characters from all the movies. And that's saying something. I think he's at his best in Episode 3, because he's at his evilest and hammiest. We even get to see him in a lightsaber fight twice. Ian McDiarmid did a great job portraying this legendary character. Number 29. What is your favorite battle? I think the Battle of Endor is my favorite. The climax of the movie has everything. Of course, we have a massive ship battle against the Empire in the second Death Star, but while that's going on, Han, Leia, and Chewie are on the surface battling against the Empire's best men with an Ewok tribe. And on the Death Star itself, Luke is having his final showdown against his father. My favorite part of the battle would probably have to be when Lando and Wedge fly inside the Death Star 2 to destroy the main reactor from within. If you're a movie-only fan, watching the Star Wars movies in chronological order, I think this battle is the perfect bookend to the saga. Number 30. Why do you love Star Wars? This might be the easiest question so far, but it's also the hardest to put into words. On some level, every big Star Wars fan knows why they love it so much. George Lucas created this imaginative, immersive world, and then sucked us right into it with fantastic storytelling and compelling characters. Everything in it can be built off of it and expanded upon, like a big sandcastle that more and more kids are coming to help make even better. When the EU kicked off, even more imaginative and talented minds were allowed to tell the parts of Star Wars that George Lucas didn't want to. But it was all part of one universe that only seemed to grow and become more interesting over time. I also love the prequels because George was just diving back into his galaxy. Everything else is window dressing, like all the spaceships and lightsabers, but those elements help give it more of an identity as well. I came for the movies, and I'll rewatch them anytime, but I stayed for the expansive and cohesive lore kept together in one structured timeline. Anyway, that's part 2 of this questionnaire. Like I said, if you want to respond to these questions, I'd love to see your version too. If I hit 400 subscribers, I'll try and come up with something cool for that milestone as well. Thanks again, everyone. I love you guys so much.